When the phone buzzed that morning, Nia almost ignored it, until she saw who was calling. After 7 silent years, her mother's name flashed on the screen. She hesitated, her heart caught between curiosity and ache. The first thing her mother said wasn't hello. It was, "We need $39,000. It's urgent." Nia blinked, stunned. "No, how have you been?" No apology for forgetting her birthdays, no mention of the years she begged them to believe in her. Just that number, cold, heavy and entitled. Years ago, Nia walked away from her hometown with tears in her eyes and a small bag in her hand. Her parents had called her selfish because she refused to pay for her sister Ebony's wedding. They said she was ungrateful, that she had forgotten her roots. No one cared to understand that Nia simply didn't have the money then. From that day, she was no longer treated as part of the family. While Ebony was praised and spoiled, Nia struggled just to survive. She took on 3 small jobs: cleaning offices during the day, waiting tables at night, and designing small interiors whenever she could find a client. She slept on friends' couches, skipped meals, and saved every little coin she earned. Life was hard, but Nia refused to give up. She wanted to prove that she could stand on her own, even if her family thought she couldn't. Every birthday and holiday, she tried to reach out. She sent messages that were never replied to. She mailed small gifts that no one ever acknowledged. With time, her hope started to fade. It hurt deeply, but she stopped trying. She accepted that her family had chosen to forget her. The love she once chased turned into silence that echoed louder with each passing year. Ebony, on the other hand, lived in comfort. Her wedding was grand, her photos filled with smiles, and her parents proudly told everyone about their perfect daughter. But Nia was never mentioned, not even once. To the world, it was as if she didn't exist. Still, Nia kept working, quietly, slowly building her career in the city. Her hands built her dreams, and her heart learned to live without family approval. Years passed, and life finally began to reward her efforts. She designed beautiful homes, met new people who respected her, and finally bought her own condo, something she once thought was impossible. It was her first real home, filled with peace instead of pain. Then one small moment changed everything. Ebony came to visit after many years, pretending to want to reconnect. Nia welcomed her warmly, unaware of what would happen next. The next morning, Ebony posted pictures of Nia's condo online, showing off every corner. Within hours, the photos spread among family and old friends. And suddenly, the people who forgot Nia existed remembered her again. That one photo reopened doors Nia had long closed, and started a story she never expected. After many years of working hard in the city, Nia finally reached a point she had once only dreamed of. She had become a successful real estate designer. Every piece she created carried her story, her struggle, her pain, her strength. When she bought her first condo, it felt like a quiet victory. It wasn't just a place to live. It was proof that all those nights of hunger and loneliness were worth it. Her new home was peaceful, bright, and full of life. Everything her past wasn't. One Friday evening, her phone buzzed. It was her sister Ebony. The same sister who hadn't called in years suddenly wanted to visit. "I'll be in the city for the weekend," Ebony said sweetly. "Can I stop by?" Nia hesitated but agreed. A small part of her still wanted to believe her sister cared. When Ebony arrived, she acted warm and friendly, just like old times. They talked, laughed, and shared stories about childhood. Nia cooked dinner, and for the first time in years, she felt like maybe things were changing. Maybe her family missed her after all. That night, they sat on the couch, flipping through old photos, remembering the days when they were inseparable. Nia went to bed feeling light, like a small part of her heart had healed. But the next morning, everything changed. Nia's phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Dozens of notifications filled her screen. Messages from people she hadn't spoken to in years. Confused, she opened social media, and her heart dropped. Ebony had posted photos of her condo all over the internet. The caption read, "My sister's home. Proof that God never forgets his favorites." The post was filled with photos of every corner of her private space, the kitchen, the balcony, even her bedroom view. People began to comment, share, and gossip. In just a few hours, the post went viral among family and old neighbors. Suddenly, everyone was talking about Nia, the forgotten daughter who was now rich and successful. By noon, Her parents' numbers flashed on her phone. The same people who hadn't remembered her birthday for 7 years were now calling nonstop. Messages poured in from relatives saying how proud they were, how much they missed her. Nia stared at her phone, speechless. Deep down, she knew this wasn't love. It was curiosity, maybe greed. That one post had broken the silence she once begged to fill, but it didn't bring comfort. It brought a storm she never asked for. Nia's phone didn't stop ringing that morning. Messages, missed calls, and voice notes kept flooding in from numbers she hadn't seen in years. Her mother's name appeared on the screen again and again. After a long pause, Nia finally picked up, her heart heavy with confusion. The moment she said hello, her mother's voice came through, soft and emotional. But something about it didn't feel real. "We're so proud of you, Nia. You've done so well. We've missed you so much," her mother said, trying to sound loving. For a second, Nia almost believed it. Almost. But then, just as quickly, her mother's tone shifted. She started talking about how hard things had been back home, how Ebony's husband had made a few mistakes, how the family house was now at risk. Then came the real reason for the call. "Nia, we need $39,000. It's urgent," her mother said. "If we don't pay soon, we'll lose everything." Nia sat there, silent. Her mind went blank for a moment. After all those years of being ignored, forgotten, and treated like a stranger, now they remembered her only because they needed money. Her chest tightened as she listened to her mother continue, pretending this was about family unity. Nia finally spoke, her voice calm but cold. "So, I'm useful again, right?" There was a long silence on the other side. Then her mother sighed. "Family helps family, Nia. You're the only one who can fix this." Those words hit deep. Family helps family. The same line she had once cried to them years ago when she was struggling and needed their support. Back then, no one had picked up her calls. No one had sent even a kind message. But now, because she had a nice home and a successful career, she was suddenly their beloved daughter again. Her mother kept talking, but Nia could barely hear anymore. Memories rushed back. The nights she cried herself to sleep, the times she wished for their love, the moments she told herself to stop caring. All of that came flooding back, and it hurt even more now. When the call ended, Nia sat quietly on her couch, staring at the city lights through her window. The silence after the call felt heavier than before. She realized something painful but true. Her family hadn't come back for her heart. They had come back for her wallet. And deep inside, she knew this was only the beginning. Nia couldn't stop thinking about the call. Every word from her mother's voice replayed in her head. She wanted to believe that maybe, just maybe, they had missed her. But something deep inside told her it wasn't love, it was convenience. Still, she needed to see it for herself. So instead of refusing, she decided to visit her family. She told herself it was just to clear the air, but truthfully, she wanted to test if their love was real or just another lie. When she arrived, the house looked very different from what she remembered. The once simple home was now filled with shiny furniture, expensive curtains, and bright colors that didn't belong there before. It didn't feel like her childhood home anymore. It felt like someone else's dream. Her eyes moved around the walls, looking for something familiar, something that showed she was still part of this family. But all she saw were framed pictures of Ebony's wedding, her husband and their children. Not one single picture of Nia. It was as if she had never existed. Her parents rushed to greet her, all smiles and forced warmth. Her mother hugged her quickly, but then turned her attention to Ebony's little boy, adjusting his shirt, fussing over his food. Nia stood there, invisible once again, just like old times. At dinner, they all sat together, but the air felt heavy. Her father cleared his throat and gave her a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "We always knew you'd come back, Nia," he said, trying to sound proud. "You've always been our smart girl." Nia nodded politely, even though his words felt empty. Before she could respond, Ebony spoke, her tone soft but careful. "So about the money." The table went silent. Nia looked up, her eyes sharp now. She noticed how quickly Ebony avoided her gaze. Something didn't feel right. Her parents exchanged worried looks. Nia began asking questions, calmly at first. "What exactly is happening with the house?" she asked. Her mother hesitated, her eyes darting to Ebony. That was when Nia saw the truth in the hesitation. The family house they wanted to save wasn't this home at all. Later, When Ebony slipped and mentioned a luxury villa, everything clicked. The money wasn't for her parents' home. It was for Ebony's grand house, the one her husband had bought to impress everyone. Nia sat back, quiet, the betrayal washing over her. They hadn't invited her back for family. They had invited her back for money. The warmth she hoped for turned cold again, colder than ever. That night, Nia couldn't sleep. The house was quiet, but her thoughts were loud. Everything felt wrong. The fake smiles, the forced kindness, the way they kept avoiding her questions. Something deep inside told her that the story about the family house wasn't true. So, when everyone went to bed, she decided to find out the truth for herself. She walked quietly through the hallway, the same hallway she once ran through as a child. Her father's office door was slightly open. Papers were scattered across the desk, along with unpaid bills and legal documents. Nia's eyes caught a familiar name, Ebony's husband. She froze. Carefully, she picked up the papers and began to read. The truth hit her like a wave. The debt had nothing to do with saving the family home. Ebony's husband had taken several illegal property loans under her father's name, using fake documents and false signatures. The $39,000 her parents begged for wasn't to protect their home. It was to hide Ebony's husband's crime before it reached the authorities. They were scared of being exposed, scared of losing their reputation, not their house. Nia sank into the chair, her hands trembling as she flipped through the files. Each page showed proof of betrayal. Her family name used for greed and lies. She felt her chest tighten. All the years of pain, all the nights she wished they cared, and now she realized they hadn't reached out because they loved her. They reached out because they needed her money to fix their mess. She heard footsteps behind her. Her mother stood at the doorway, holding her shawl tightly. Their eyes met, and for a moment, her mother looked small, fragile, almost guilty. "Nia," she said softly. "I can explain." But Nia didn't say a word. Her mother walked closer and whispered, "Please don't be angry. You're the only one who can fix this. We can't lose everything." Nia slowly turned to face her, her eyes calm but filled with hurt. "Lose everything?" she repeated quietly. "You already lost me." Her mother's eyes filled with tears, but Nia didn't stay to comfort her. She placed the papers back on the table and walked out of the office. The house that once felt like home now felt like a stranger's place. That night, Nia realized the truth. Love built on lies isn't love at all. And sometimes, losing family is better than losing yourself. The next morning, Nia woke up early, her mind heavy with what she had discovered the night before. She sat quietly at the dining table, sipping tea, waiting for everyone to wake up. When Ebony walked in, she looked cheerful, pretending nothing was wrong. She smiled and said, "So, have you thought about the money? Mom said you'll help us." Nia didn't reply. She just stared at her sister, trying to understand how someone she once loved so deeply could lie so easily. When Nia didn't answer, Ebony's tone changed. She leaned against the chair and said sharply, "You wouldn't even have this life if it weren't for Mom and Dad's sacrifices. They gave up so much for you. And now you act like you're better than us." Nia looked at her calmly. Her voice was steady but full of quiet pain. "They didn't sacrifice for me, Ebony," she said softly. "They sacrificed me for you." The room fell silent. Her words hung heavy in the air. Her father, hearing the raised voices, entered the room. His face tightened. "What's going on here?" he asked. Ebony immediately spoke first, pretending to be the victim. "She's accusing us of using her. After everything we've done." Nia stood up slowly, her expression calm. "I'm not accusing anyone," she said. "I'm just telling the truth." She walked toward her father's office and came back holding the stack of documents she had found the night before. She placed them on the table. "These are the real reasons you needed the money," she said firmly. "It wasn't about saving a house. It was about hiding what Ebony's husband did." Her father's eyes widened as he looked through the papers. The color drained from his face when he saw the forged signatures and loan papers under his name. Ebony's voice shook. "Where did you get this?" she asked. Nia replied quietly, "From your office. You were never trying to protect the family. You were trying to cover up a crime." Her father shouted, his voice breaking with anger. "How dare you go through my things? You're disrespectful. You've always been arrogant." But his words didn't carry weight anymore. Nia stood still, her eyes steady. The truth was right there, written in black and white. No one could deny it. The room went completely silent. Her mother looked down, unable to meet Nia's gaze. Ebony sat frozen, her face pale. The truth had broken through the lies, and in that moment, the perfect image they had built around Ebony began to crumble. Piece by piece. The air in the room felt thick after the truth came out. No one moved or spoke for a long moment. Ebony sat frozen, her hands shaking. Their father stared at the documents as if the words could somehow change, while their mother looked at Nia with pleading eyes. Finally, her mother whispered, "Nia, please, don't tell anyone about this. You'll destroy your sister's life, and ours." Nia looked at her quietly. For years, she had carried the weight of being the bad daughter, the forgotten one, the one blamed for everything. Now, she saw clearly that all those years of silence only protected their lies. Her father spoke next, his voice trembling. "You don't understand, Nia. Family makes mistakes. We just need to fix this quietly." Nia took a deep breath, her eyes calm but tired. "Fix this quietly? You mean hide it again?" she said softly. "You can't build family on manipulation." Her words cut through the room like glass. Her mother began to cry, begging her to think about how it would look if people found out. But Nia had already made up her mind. She wasn't going to be the silent one anymore. Without another word, she turned toward the door. Her father stood up sharply. "If you walk out now, don't ever come back," he shouted. Nia stopped, turned her head slightly and said, "You made that choice years ago, not me." Then she walked out, leaving behind the people who had used her kindness and called it duty. Behind her were stunned faces and years of unspoken pain finally breaking apart. But Nia didn't want revenge. She knew revenge only traps you with the people who hurt you. What she wanted was freedom and quiet justice. The next day, she called the legal firm that managed her company's community projects. She explained everything and offered to buy back her parents' old house, the one tied to their memories. But she made one condition: the house would be in her name, and her parents wouldn't be allowed to sell or transfer it again. The firm agreed, and soon, the papers were finalized. When her parents found out, they were surprised but grateful. They thought it was an act of love, unaware that it was Nia's way of protecting what little was left of her family name. It wasn't about power, it was about peace. She didn't destroy them. She simply made sure they could never destroy her again. Months passed, and Nia focused on rebuilding her peace. She poured herself into work, into helping others, and into living a life that finally felt free of lies. Then one morning, her phone started buzzing non-stop. Messages flooded in. News had broken that Ebony's husband had been arrested for a huge fraud scandal. The story spread fast. His face was everywhere, on every local channel and social media page. Within hours, the whispers began. Neighbors who once praised Ebony's perfect life started gossiping. Old friends who used to envy her stopped answering her calls. Relatives who once adored her now avoided her name like a curse. The same people who always believed her over Nia suddenly turned away. The family's name was dragged through the mud, and all their fancy dinners and expensive parties couldn't clean the stain. Their parents tried to keep up appearances at first, pretending it was a misunderstanding. But when investigators came to their doorstep asking questions, even they couldn't hide anymore. The shame was too heavy. People who once begged to be invited to Ebony's home now crossed the street to avoid her. Her husband was denied bail, and suddenly, her picture-perfect life shattered into pieces. Late one evening, as Nia sat on her balcony reading, her phone rang. The name flashing on the screen made her heart skip. Ebony. She hesitated for a moment before answering. On the other end, Ebony's voice broke with sobs. "Nia," she whispered. "I didn't know how to stop it. I thought Mom and Dad would help. I thought everything would be okay." Nia closed her eyes, her heart aching. Memories of their childhood flashed in her mind. How Ebony used to steal her toys, her clothes, even her parents' affection, and Nia stayed silent, thinking love would fix it all. But love had limits. "You had everyone's love, Ebony," she said softly. "You just never learned what loyalty costs." There was a long silence. Ebony tried to speak, but words failed her. For the first time, she sounded small, not proud or perfect, just broken. Nia didn't hang up in anger. She sat quietly, listening to her sister's quiet sobs. Because no matter what had happened, she still loved her. Not the selfish, glamorous sister she had become, but the little girl she once knew, before lies ruined everything. As the call ended, Nia looked out at the night sky. She didn't feel victory or revenge, just a deep, quiet sadness. Sometimes justice didn't look like punishment. Sometimes it looked like finally seeing the truth and choosing peace anyway. Nia's life slowly changed after everything that happened. Instead of thinking about what her family had done, she focused on what she could build. She started a small mentorship program for young women from poor families, girls who reminded her of her younger self, full of dreams but surrounded by people who never believed in them. She taught them how to manage money, build small businesses, and believe in their own worth. Each day she watched them grow stronger, braver, and more confident. They looked up to her, not because she was rich, but because she understood their pain and showed them that success was possible without losing your heart. Nia found joy in seeing their lives change. For the first time, she felt that her life had real meaning, not just success in numbers or fame, but in the lives she touched. She no longer felt the emptiness that once haunted her. These girls became her new family. A family built on respect, honesty, and love, not lies or manipulation. They called her Big Sister Nia. And she would laugh, realizing that this was what real connection felt like. One quiet afternoon, as she was finishing a workshop, her assistant walked in and said softly, "There's someone here to see you." Nia turned and froze. Her father stood at the doorway. He looked older, his shoulders bent, his eyes tired. He wasn't the proud man she once feared. He looked like someone who had carried too much regret for too long. For a moment neither spoke. Then he stepped forward slowly and said, "We failed you, Nia. We thought love meant control, and we lost you because of it. You deserved better parents." Nia felt her heart twist. She had imagined this moment many times, angry, painful, loud. But now it was calm. She took a deep breath and said quietly, "I didn't need perfect parents. I just needed honesty. But it's okay. I'll take peace instead." Tears filled her father's eyes. He nodded, unable to speak, and turned to leave. Nia watched him go, feeling something she hadn't felt in years: closure. As she looked around at the smiling faces of the young women she was helping, she realized something powerful. She didn't lose her family. She simply found a new one she built from love, truth, and healing. And for the first time, she truly felt free. 1 year later, Nia's condo was filled with laughter, music, and warm light. She had organized a charity gala, an event to raise funds for young women starting their own businesses. The place that once symbolized her loneliness had now become a home full of love, purpose, and real connection. Guests moved around, admiring her art-filled walls, sharing stories, and celebrating the woman Nia had become. As she stood on her balcony, looking at the city lights, a soft breeze brushed her face. From a distance, she noticed two familiar figures near the gate, her mother and Ebony. They weren't dressed for a party, just standing quietly watching. Her mother held Ebony's hand tightly, both unsure whether to come inside. Their faces carried a mix of pride, guilt, and longing. For a moment, Nia's heart softened. She remembered all the years she had begged for their love, their approval, their care. And now here they were, not demanding, not pretending, just silently watching. They waved weakly, almost shyly. Nia smiled politely and lifted her hand in a small wave back. Then, without hesitation, she turned and walked back into her living room. Her friend noticed and asked, "Was that your family?" Nia nodded with a calm smile. "Yes. Some people only remember you when you shine," she said, her voice steady and gentle. "But real family sees your light even in the dark." Her words hung softly in the air as the music swelled again. Guests clinked their glasses, laughter filled the room, and Nia joined them, not as someone seeking validation, but as someone who had finally found peace. She talked, laughed, and danced with people who loved her for who she truly was, not for what she could give. Every smile, every thank you from the young women she helped, reminded her that she had built something beautiful from the pain she once carried. As the night went on, she looked around the room, her friends, her mates, her supporters, and realized she no longer needed her old family's acceptance. She had already created her own. That night, under the city's glowing lights, Nia felt completely free. No bitterness, no anger, just peace. She had learned the hardest lesson, that forgiveness doesn't mean going back, it means moving forward without hate. And for the first time in her life, she wasn't trying to prove her worth. She was simply living it.